Yeah. Let's begin with the roll call so we don't have any time to waste in case we're only three of us. So let's go with the roll call.
Chair Eisen?
Here.
Commissioner Black?
Here.
Commissioner Eisen?
Here.
All right, you have a quorum.
Okay. Let's go to the approval of the minutes from last time. Has everyone had a chance to look through it? If not, let's take a couple of minutes, read through it. The only thing that caught my eye is that I know what wasn't mentioned. Let's see, what was it? I had written a note somewhere. I think it was on something I threw out. Let's see, what was it? Oh, I know when we, one of the things we mentioned that is not on here is first night. Okay. And then I'm wondering when it comes to the minutes, is it possible to get the minutes? Like, how quickly do you do the minutes from the meeting? Because a month later to look at the minutes is, or 3 weeks later, is a long time. You know, like in terms of our memory, if something that we realize should have been on there, 3 weeks or 4 weeks later, we're not going to remember what should have been on that didn't get on when we read those minutes. So is there any way to get a summary, the minutes earlier?
It's been standard practice to submit the minutes when we send out the agenda for the next meeting. So it's for the public record.
Maybe I could share the way the Brown Act rules work, is anything that we share with all of you as Brown Act commissioners, we have to share with the public. And so that's why in any public meeting you're part of, whether it's city council or any public meeting that requires compliance with the Brown Act, the minutes go out with the agenda. Otherwise you have to go through a whole nother process to get the minutes to you and to the community at a different time.
All right. Okay, does anyone want to submit a motion for the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as received.
Okay, I will second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Wait. Aye. All right. Very good. So minutes are done. Okay. City council updates. Recreation updates. I am looking at this now, Matthew, with the idea that there's a good possibility that by 7 o'clock we will no longer have a quorum. So I think anything we're going to vote on should be done now, and we should be looking at those things now, and the rest of it, if Pat leaves and we still have things, we can continue on. Okay?
It's fine. Yes.
Happy to do that. So the two things, well, there's three things, sorry, two things we need to vote on, and then a third one that requires some discussion. Art deaccessioning policy. Oh, we've got Commissioner Haro coming on, so maybe that.
Hey.
But I think
good.
The more we can get done while Commissioner Black is here, the better.
Right.
And then the policy for the Friends and the MOU, I think that's the meatiest discussion we'll have. And then the priority setting, I think we still leave that for, it'd be great to have all 5 of you for that. And so if we can't do that tonight, maybe we wait another meeting for that.
Yeah, okay,
I can
that
provide
sounds.
an update on it. Do we want to just jump right to the art deaccessioning policy should go very quick. Okay,
let's do that.
Okay, great.
So
go ahead.
Sorry. We are then, I'm just drawing everyone's attention to, which one is that? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, on the wrong thing. Okay, policy for private partnerships, art, the art policy, 6C. So we're going right into 6C. All right, go ahead.
So if you recall, this was brought to you 2 meetings ago. Victor Gaitan from my office, who works on community services, but has some background in art policies in the North Fair Oaks area of Redwood City, He is our project lead for this in the city. And so he started with the art deaccessioning policy, knowing that the entire art policy is going to be a longer term project, has been a longer term project. And we have a need to get the deaccessioning policy adopted and move forward so we can make some decisions about some of the artwork we currently have up in the city. And so he brought a draft of this to you, or details on the draft to you 2 months ago. And your direction was you had minor comments, but the most important thing you were seeking was some additional outreach to groups that would need to be involved in the deaccessioning policy, which we've done. Based on their feedback, there would be minor edits to the version that you were provided with this agenda. And so I can just share what we've heard and share where the edits would take place. And then we'd be interested in any other edits that you are interested in seeing before we take this to the council. So we reached out, to, the two main groups we were most focused on were the Half Moon Bay History Association, because they are a group of folks that have a lot of background and a lot of history in Half Moon Bay and on the coast side about all things historical, and artwork often falls into that. And then the other group that is of key importance is the Coastal Arts League, because they are involved with almost all art related activity and actions here on the coast. The other types of groups you asked us to reach out to were the Half Moon Bay Beautification Committee, because of partially their membership and just some really long institutional knowledge there, but also their work along Main Street and commissioning work and beautifying Main Street. And so that would be a good partner in planning, but also have some good history on existing artwork. And then cultural groups, groups like Alas and the Portuguese Society and other groups that might have some cultural context that they could add to understanding the work that we have in place or future artwork we want. So Victor reached out and talked to all those organizations. Most of them didn't have any feedback other than they'd be interested in being contacted. At the time, we're considering deaccession. The History Association was really grateful to be included. They would love as much notice as possible so they can help with the research and the background of the artwork and helping us to really understand all the historical context, and not just the history of the artwork, but the context around it when it was constructed. And then the Coastal Arts League, their comments were also grateful to be included, really want to be consulted before we remove any artwork. And their two areas were really understanding the value of the artwork, both financially and kind of cultural value or value to the community, but also some guidance on whether or not restoration is an option for certain pieces of artwork. The rest of the groups, again, especially the cultural groups, it'll depend on the artwork and the need. And then the beautification committee, I think, is just some good background and institutional knowledge. So the only recommended change that came from that outreach would be in section on page 3 of the art policy that was attached to this agenda, section 5, procedures, third paragraph down page 3, where it talks about in presenting the deaccession request, city staff will provide all available relevant corresponding materials to the Parks and Rec Commission, including but not limited to. Before that sentence, it would say that city staff will coordinate with the following groups as appropriate. And it'll just be a statement that we're going to work with them first, and they will help us prepare to bring that request to you and consult through the process. And based on that, the groups that we've talked to, we're really happy that we're getting a policy in place like this, so we're not haphazardly removing artwork. I think the Coastal Arts League is especially interested in trying to save some of the artwork through preservation, but they said they'd be realistic in seeing how we could, which ones are really worth and able to be restored versus which have to be removed. Am I frozen, or is it only Commissioner Eisen?
I see you, Matthew.
Okay. It looked like a couple.
Oh, am I frozen?
You were for a moment, but it looks like we got everybody back. It could have been.
No, you're good.
Oh,
Great. So all we're seeking tonight is we'd like to take this to the council at one of the April meetings for review and approval. And so we're looking for any additional feedback you'd like incorporated into the attached policy before we do that.
all right. Anybody have anything, or do you need a couple of minutes to look this over? And then if you have anything, jump in. Anyone right off the top? Okay, I'm just going to give my 2 cents. It looks like you've done a great job. I'm really happy to hear about your communication with the Historical Society and also the Coastal Arts League. I think that's marvelous. This is what we want. We want that whole community input and feel like they're involved and that they're not being shoved to the side, overlooked. And so this way it brings them in, makes them a part of it. And of course, as I mentioned, I'm hoping to have people from those entities on like a committee, like a subcommittee here for when we are going to go ahead and be looking at doing artistic things for Half Moon Bay, doing public art. So so it's great to get them in on the ground floor in terms of putting together policy for the city, and then hopefully we'll have them directly involved. So
Yeah,
I'm good. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Here, I'd like to say, yeah, it's an extremely well done document. And I applaud you all for your detailedness. And I think it's really good, and let's get it working. Thank you.
Anyone else? Adam, Louise, you have any comments, or are we ready for a motion?
No, I think as far as I'm good. I like it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Lisa's good too. Sorry, my camera's not working right now. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And so anyone want to make the motion?
Well, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we accept the City of Half Moon Bay deassation of public art policy, to accept that as stated.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please, Jonathan.
Roll call.
Chair Eisen,
Yes, aye.
Commissioner Black,
Aye.
Commissioner Eisen,
Yep.
Commissioner Harrow.
Yep.
Passes 4-0.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. All right, Matthew. So I guess next we probably want to move right into the Friends, yes? Yeah.
Yes. And you'll note tonight, there's nobody from the Friends attending our meeting.
Oh.
That was calculated and planned. I'm sure as you've looked, as folks have looked at the MOU draft, there's been some significant changes to it. And based on my meetings with them, and I'll share some of the details I heard from them, this is going to put us into some deeper negotiation, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think we're just a little farther apart right now, and they felt like it would probably be best for the commission to be able to have kind of a conversation amongst yourselves without having somebody from the Friends that felt put on the spot or wanted to chime in. If we could just have a free discussion tonight, we could finalize our comments, and then we'll work with the Friends on continuing negotiating the MOU. So there was no issue. They just felt like this, because we're in negotiations, it was worth allowing the commission to have the discussion tonight.
That's perfect.
So what I'll share, and I appreciate Chair Eisen reached out to us, and we had some really good conversations about it to clarify some of her comments from last meeting. But based on what we heard at the last meeting, for the MOU specifically, there were a couple of really important areas that people were interested in. And so I'll just point you to a couple of changes we made to the draft to get us closer to where you want us to be. I will remind you that an MOU is a little different than a lease agreement or a contract. An MOU really is a voluntary agreement that two parties enter into to memorialize how you're going to work together and how you're going to partner. And so I will say some of the frustration I heard from the Friends and why we'll have to continue to negotiate is they feel like some of what we've tried to put into this draft is a little more dictatorial than an MOU would typically be, and I don't disagree. And so it's just going to be a little bit more effort to get this finalized. So a couple of important sections. So in section 2, subsection C, finances, there's a section that talks about if the Friends were to dissolve as a nonprofit, what they would do with their funds. We added a section below that upon, and actually now that I'm looking at it, it should say both, but upon their dissolution or termination of this agreement, the Friends would actually initiate a change of their legal entity name to no longer represent a direct relationship with the city, including the website and email domains, logos, marketing materials, et cetera. So the idea is that if our relationship were to dissolve or they ceased to operate, that they would basically give up the name of Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec and give up their website URL, which is HMBPRC.org. Because those terms really denote a really tight relationship between them and the city. And my recommendation to them is if this were to happen, they could become the Friends of Coastside Parks and Rec, something along those lines. Although they didn't say that they would never be open to doing something like that, they basically stated unequivocally that they would not sign an agreement that included this requirement in it. They believe that that's a decision they need to make on their own as an independent nonprofit. Again, they might consider doing it at some point out of their own need to expand their horizons and look more coastside wide, but they would not sign the agreement if it's in there. So I think that's important context, and I was appreciative of them being really clear with me about where this stands. The next section is a little more nuanced. It's a section we added called fundraising donated funds. And this really comes from the discussion that we had at our last meeting, which is really identifying how much of fundraising money, when they do work on city property or at city events, how much of that money comes to us. And a lot of this is sparked by the work they did at the previous 2 Summer's End music festivals, and they sold alcohol, raised several $1,000s, and those funds were kept by them for their operating priorities. It didn't go to the pool fund or anything like that, but it was kept within their organization, and none of it was donated to the city. And I think we had an expectation that we would see some of those funds. And so we've been really clear with them that this is something we need to get on paper and in writing before we can enter into this MOU and move forward with them. I've worked with them a little bit, and there's kind of a compromise that's been proposed from what's been included here, but we'll go through this and then I can talk about kind of the discussion I had with them. So it really makes it clear that we will only use donated funds for the purposes that they were donated for. So if somebody donated money for Carter Park, we're not going to put that into the general fund and use it for a non-park related activity, or even use it to improve some other park. When a person makes a donation, they expect that money to be used towards that donation. There is language here that talks about if that project changes or gets canceled, we'll work with the Friends, if they're the ones that coordinated that donation, and the donor to either get agreement that we can reroute those funds to something else, and sometimes you have to return the funds. You know, if someone makes a donation and you can't live up to what they were expecting, you give it back. And then the section below that talks about, first and foremost, anytime they want to fundraise on city-owned property or a city-owned event, before they do that, we have to have something in writing that spells out the location, manner, priorities, and fund sharing of that fundraising. But it also gets very specific. I don't think we would have to work those things out typically, because it really is spelled out here in the agreement. So anytime they're doing fundraising at our music events, culture events, an event that the city has sponsored and is leading, the proposed language was that they would give us 20% of any of their general membership renewal sign up collected. They charge $25 a year for membership, and we would collect 20%, or 20% of that would come to the city for the Raleigh Wright Scholarship Fund. Any city-specific projects and priorities obviously would be 100% of that would come to the city. Any city programs and services, such as the Raleigh Wright Fund, if a person specified it or that's what they were fundraising for, that money would come back to the city 100%. Friend-specific projects and priorities. So if the Friends had a project, we'll use the pool as an example, that they wanted to fundraise for, and we authorized them to actually do that. So I think one of the things this makes clear is they may come to us before the summer's end or a music event and say, hey, we want to raise money for the pool at your event. We might say, I'm sorry, but no, that's not a city priority. You can't do it. But if we said yes, just like on the other side, they would keep 100% of it because that is the purpose for which that money was donated. And then we get to something a little more ambiguous, which is just the sales of goods or services or just general support or general donation. Someone just walks up and says, hey, I want to donate. I'm at this event. I want to donate $100 to the Friends of Parks and Rec. Or they buy the product that's being sold. In this case, the best example is the alcohol that they've been selling at Summer's End. The proposed split would be the city would keep 75% of the net proceeds. So obviously they get to back out any money they spent to buy the product or whatever their costs were to actually make that promotion happen. The net proceeds would come 75% to us and 25% they could keep for their general operating expenses. And then similarly, a similar breakdown for if they were fundraising on city property, but not at a city event. So they call us up and they say, hey, we want to set up a table at Mac Dutra on a busy summer weekend and do some fundraising. The split would be a little different because we don't have skin in the game, right? We're not organizing a big event that brings them a crowd. And so we would expect them to be able to keep a little bit more. We were still proposing 20% of the general membership and or renewal would stay with the city, 100% and 0% with the specific projects. And then in that case, 50% of the net proceeds would come to us because we're not doing anything to even organize an event. Our overhead isn't there. I think it's fair that they would keep it. What this wouldn't impact is any of the private fundraising they do. If they go to a restaurant, if they go to a private property, they go to a school event, whatever, we don't have any say over what happens with those donations. That's really for them to decide as a nonprofit, other than if somebody donates for a specific project. Based on my meetings with their leadership, they're okay with this idea, but they do have some areas that they want to discuss. And the first is general membership renewal or sign up. They're very concerned, at least right now, while they're still kind of building their program and they've just hired somebody and they hired someone to actually get them organized and get them a little more professional. They're only funding right now for general operating expenses, which are paying that staff member to dedicate a lot of time to this. But more importantly, any fundraising they do, they have to have some kind of seed fund. You know, if they're going to do a mailer or do a printing, they have to have money to do that with. And so the only way right now they get that money is through their general membership. And so they have proposed that, at least for now, that this would be there wouldn't be a share. Because right now that's the only way. We're not contributing to them, and I've made it clear to them, I don't think the city's probably going to give them general operating funds anytime soon. We don't do that. And so that obviously was a concern for them because 20% of their only funding source is significant. And then for the sales of goods and services, they did mention that it is a huge undertaking from a volunteer standpoint and a staffing standpoint to do those types of events. And so their proposal would be just 50% at a city event or on city property across the board. They believe that if we would agree to that, they'd be able to move this forward and get it approved by their board. The last thing that they shared with me for feedback on this was, and I think maybe it does make it more palatable for everybody, is right now it's written with a 5-year initial term, and they're concerned that that 5 years is a long commitment for both sides, especially with some of the things we're asking as far as cost share and all that kind of stuff. And so that what they proposed, or what I proposed based on their feedback, was changing it to a 1-year initial term with the ability for mutual agreement to extend it for up to 2 more 1-year terms. And then either in a year or in 3 years, then we can really dig in and take a look at this and make revisions to it once we've got, they've had some time to refocus their programs and continue to get on the same page with us. I think that's I think what they've asked for is fair. And I'm really interested in your feedback so that I can take it back to them as we continue to negotiate.
All right, very good. Thank you, Matthew. Commissioners, comments? What are your thoughts about this? Let's start with the different points that Matthew brought up that the Friends would like to see changed from what is written right now.
Well, let's ask some questions first. I got questions.
Okay.
So Matthew, just give me your, like, I hear what you're saying. Give me the way that I am interpreting this might be, I want you to put me in my place, basically. But like, it does not seem from my perspective that there is a large ability for us to really fundraise for the town for parks through this agreement. Like, I don't see, if we were to do this for a year, the way it's now being proposed, I personally don't see that we will probably have, more than like $20,000 or something. I'm curious, what do you think? And like, give me your perspective on where we are with it. And is that even okay that they would get most of the money and can use it? Because I mean, I'm kind of thinking we'd be better off just starting our own nonprofit organization through the city and going to our own events and really being able to make our own money and use it towards the things that we deem to be appropriate. It seems like that'd be a much better solution than this. But I just want to hear your perspective and just gain your insight.
Okay, before you answer, Matthew, I just want to piggyback a little bit on this. So let's take the example of Frenchman's Creek. The fundraising for Frenchman's Creek, based on how they want to do it, what would happen? Would they get half of that fundraising, or would it all go to Frenchman's Creek, or what's? Let's talk concretely so that we understand what we're looking at.
Sure, and Frenchman's Creek was an example I wanted to give in response, so that's a perfect segue.
Right.
And unfortunately, I haven't been able to give you an update on Frenchman's Creek because we reordered things, but you'll get a little bit of it now and you'll get a little bit more later. So Frenchman's Creek is a good example of, it's addressed in the agreement because that's a priority we have that they've agreed to work on because they agree to help us with our priorities. And so they've helped us with fundraising. They've led the fundraising. They've done tons of outreach. We've coordinated to get mailers out and advertising out and banners up around town. And so they've to date raised a little over $15,000. And that's in about 2.5 months of active fundraising on this. Obviously, that's not a huge amount of money, but for this project, I think it was a good demonstration of their ability to start to work towards this. To be effective working on fundraising for a specific project. And in the case of this, that money was raised for this. They're going to donate 100% of that to us. They're not keeping any of those funds. There's no expectation. Now, I talked earlier about how they need some general operating funds because you can't even do a campaign. So in this case, the city paid for the mailing and helped pay for the banners because they didn't have any money to do that with. And so we had to work together on that. They did all the legwork. We covered the costs of the fundraising the hard costs of the fundraising activities. We're not going to cover their staffing costs or anything. And I think it's yielded good fruit. As a very quick update, since we still have Commissioner Black here, we've been authorized by the City Council, given where we're at financially. At the next meeting, we will likely bring forward an item authorizing us to commit up to $30,000 to combine with what's been raised with the Friends and get that project done immediately. We heard you loud and clear at the last meeting that this is a priority. We've heard it from the community. The Friends, I think, have done a good job in a short amount of time getting commitments and fundraising. They've applied for some grants. I think they've done a really great effort and gotten some good fruit for us, and it's going to get us to a point where we'll get this project done more quickly than if we had done it on our own. I think the next example, and I think this really speaks to Adam's question, is for the big stuff, and that's Carter Park. I mean, that's the next one we're going to fundraise for. We are done with all the environmental work. We're approved. We can build it now. We've applied for the $4.75 million grant from the state. We're also working with state legislators to try to get an earmark from the state for some funding for this. Ultimately, it leaves us with about $500,000 we'll still need to either pay out of the city general fund, which we don't have really set aside right now, or fundraise to get this part completed if we were to receive one of those grants, and certainly more if we don't receive or only receive a portion of those grants. So this is exactly where we need somebody to help us with fundraising. A fundraising campaign of several $100,000 or multi-million dollars is a big undertaking, and we're not staffed to take that on ourselves. And if we wanted to pay somebody that's a professional fundraiser, they won't do it typically I forget the term, but sometimes attorneys do work for you and they only get paid if you win the case. That's not how fundraisers work typically. Fundraisers want money up front, and they will make a commitment to try to raise a certain amount of money. There's no guarantee, which would cause, that'd be a significant financial investment for us to hopefully raise the money. With the Friends, we may need to make some financial commitments again to help cover the costs, the hard costs of fundraising. But ultimately, they are willing and ready, and we would work together with this group and their group to develop a really strong fundraising plan that they would do all the legwork for. And based on what I've seen from them over the last 2 or 3 months of fundraising for Frenchman's Creek, I do think they have a strong ability to make connections in the community and help us raise more money than we could on our own. You did ask the question, Commissioner Eisen, about starting our own nonprofit. I will remind this commission again that that's exactly how this group started. It was the commission, it was the city council, and most of the founding members and current members of the leadership of that group were at the time sitting commission members, and now are former commission members. So there is time, energy, and cost associated with creating our own group. Certainly there's going to be some political cost in the community, because this group is not just a group of 5 people with no followers. They have a significant number of people that donate and support them. And I think we have to think about causing an offense to the community by abandoning one group to start the exact same thing. I think that's something we have to think about. And is there a group of people out there with the will to do the same thing separately? I can't answer any of those questions right now. It's not been explored. From my staff standpoint, I would not recommend it. I think we are much better off working things out in an amenable way with this group. I think they've made a ton of progress towards the verbal commitments that we've wanted to make over the years. We can share with you that we've been privy to conversations where if certain members of their group get sidetracked on some of the old priorities, they correct it very, very quickly. And they tell them, look, we're working with the city now. They've got programs that they're focused on, and we're going to support those. And that's our priority. So I actually think we're headed in the right direction. If we can get this MOU finalized, we keep working with them, and certainly we can reevaluate it on a yearly basis. So that's
good, great answers. I got one more question, and then we can go around a little bit. But is there any ability to, and I don't want to use the word audit, but that's basically what I'm going after. But like, can we see more or less the figures at the end of the 1 year of where all the money was distributed, so we have a sense of how to renegotiate the contract moving forward, so we can at least look at it and be like, all right, this is how it was all set up, but like, here's how it ended up working per se. And so, and that way we can kind of like reallocate to make sure that it's working for both parties. Is that a fair thing to ask?
I think it's certainly something we could ask, and it's something that I could also check in with the library system on, because they have the Friends of the Half Moon Bay Library that they work really well with and have over the years, to see if that's part of their procedures. They don't have an official agreement, but that group and the library team work really closely together. It's possible that information is already public. I don't know. Most public organizations have to provide public copies of their books. But it's certainly something we could ask for and see if maybe at least for the first year.
There's a little bit of a difference there. I just want to say, because Friends of the Library are Friends of the Library, not Friends of Half Moon, the city of Half Moon Bay. It's the library, and the library is owned essentially by two entities. It's a county library. It's not a city library. It's a county library. So, but the city helped them put this together as the nonprofit arm for the city. So I'm still back to that. If they are not doing the city's work, then they have no business having this name. Now, I'm like, okay, that we do this for a year, that they have the name, but I'm really not okay with them having the name if we are not working with them. That is just, it's so either the city needs to, if they want to keep the name, the city should sue them, which would be horrible, or the city, you should say the city will publicly disavow their relationship with this entity in the newspapers, in Nextdoor, in all these different places. It would be horrible. So the best thing is that if they're not working with the city, they change their name.
But they are.
They are what?
Aren't they working with the city?
I'm talking about Pat, if we come to a point where we all agree that this is not working out.
Oh yeah, well, then it's dissolved. Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
I will say we don't have any control over that. They're an independent nonprofit. The city and people that were involved with the city at the time helped create it.
And there's no history of any paperwork of when that happened, anyone had any kind of agreement of anything? No
agreement. And as we've said, we've researched this enough.
Yeah.
There typically are not agreements. Well, it's usually, and I think this MOU is an attempt to get there.
Go ahead. I like what Matt, I like the perspective, and I'll just give some different perspective on this. I like the perspective of, look, fundraising takes time and effort. We don't have city staff to really do it. We do need somebody to do this effort. I am 100% happy to have somebody else do it. I don't want to do the effort.
Right.
I don't have the time and energy. Matthew's not going to do. I mean, we don't have city staff to do it. So, realistically, I'm not sure how we do it otherwise. But the big question is, are we going to get the return that we expect from it? Now, I'm happy to explore it, but I sure as heck want to have a sense of what happened after the year to get because the way that we're talking about things, I'm not sure if the Friends will send people to certain events that they aren't really going to be able to collect money on, behalf of for us, when there was 100% going to us, as opposed to other events where they can fundraise on their own, and how all those things can be manipulated behind the scenes as well, And so then then it could turn out that we have this agreement, but like at the end of the day, we see nothing from it. And that's what I'm worried about, is that because we're not going to be looking into which event got what or how it is, unless Matthew, I mean, that could be another thing, is can we specifically see what was raised at each event that they went to? And they kind of marked down, here was an event we went to, and here's what we did, and here's how much we gained that day. And we, there's just a running record. Yeah. And we literally look at that at the end of the year, and they make a presentation to us and they say, here's all the stuff we did. Here's how much we got out of it. Here's how much you guys got out of it. Let's talk about next year's contract and see what we can do from there. I am unfortunately extremely untrusting overall, I think, but like of this situation as well. And that's why I've been trying to get more specific language, which I think you've done a great job with, Matthew. So don't, and now I'm just trying to figure out how to move forward with that belief. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's why I want to have as much specific language in there as possible. And then we need to have absolutely a follow-up and be like, all right, so this agreement started here. A year from now, we're going to talk about it again. Here are all the events. Here's the way the money got split. And if it turns out at the end that they did a great job, let's just keep doing it. No problem. If it turns out at the end that they didn't do as good of a job, maybe we rework it. And then if it turns out at the end that they did a horrible job, then it's time to talk about other options. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it.
Right. Yeah. And so I think, so there is language about events on our property, because part of it is they split the net. We need to know what they raised. So that's there, but it sounds like, again, what you're asking for is more of a, we want to see the year in whole, see all the money they collected, what it was collected for, and how it was distributed, to ensure that they're treating us fairly and treating their donors fairly. And I'm happy to ask them if we can.
Yeah, it should be an open book anyways.
That. I would
and
think
like you said, yeah, I mean, they should have no reason to hide that information realistically.
As a nonprofit, their financial books should be open.
And that's what I'm thinking.
We should be able to get a year-end statement of their finances.
A quarterly statement. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something that I think is important to also add to the MOU would be, because of what we've experienced in the last year and a half, I think that has to be taken into consideration, especially dealing with the nonprofit, that rules what's happening. I mean, nonprofits aren't bringing in a lot of money compared to what they did pre-COVID. And so
Absolutely.
I think that needs to be written in at some point. And the fact that whether we do a quarterly audit or whatever, but I think it's important to look at the books and definitely, see where the money goes. And, it works out really well. And sometimes, in the nonprofit world, in fundraising, sometimes you just have to add things to do. And I think the way this MOU is written, that it really kind of covers everything, but you're open to change as well, Matthew, I think, insofar as the document. So it's really good, but I'd like to see that added as well.
So Pat, I apologize. I'm not sure if I followed exactly what you'd like added. You mentioned that this past year and a half has been hard on nonprofits.
Right. Not that as an example, that it should be written in there that there has to be, like when we look at an audit, we're looking at money coming in. What piece of that action is the Parks and Rec Department going to receive? But I think we also have to put in some sort of a message that I guess I don't have the words to really put it together clearer, but the economy is based on what's happening in the world.
Well, I think where you're going is that, like, they might not be able to raise that much money per se. Which I get. I get that. I don't really care about that aspect of it as much as I care about the fact of the split. of how it ends up being used.
Exactly.
Because if it's 20 grand and we get 2 grand and they get 18 grand, that's what I want to know. But if it's $100,000 and we get 50 and they get 50, well, like that's not so bad. Exactly. So,
okay.
so that's all I want to see.
All right. To that extent, Matthew, I'd like to just go over so I'm clear exactly what they're wanting. So general membership, they want the whole thing.
Yeah, they made it clear that that's for now.
That's how
because
they get
they've got to
their money.
build
But then what's with the other money that they need? Okay, city-specific projects and priorities, is that changed or is that 100%?
That's still 100%. They don't want to. They don't feel like they can, and they don't want to take a cut of anything that they're not entitled to, which we. And same and vice versa.
Well, honestly, if I was them, that's the one I would negotiate. But they want to do it their way.
Well, no, okay. I think
I would say to you, let's get a 5% or whatever, a 3% administrative fee, so because we still have to deal with it. Somebody has to take in the money, transfer the money. So, that one, if I was them, I would negotiate that one.
Well, you know what? Maybe, Bobby, Mom, or Paulette, that's maybe something we give to them as something in return for the audit piece that we're asking.
I think we're onto something here is we're not ever probably going to give them just an annual operating contribution. We just don't do that with nonprofits because nonprofit depends on the city for their existence.
Right.
But I could see us saying at the end of the year, if we get audited books and everything's good, we'll give you a 5% finder's fee out of the city general fund, not out of the donations, but out of the general fund for 5% of all the funds raised and donated to the city, because then you're starting to incentivize them.
I want to incentivize them, exactly.
Chasing this money for us. And that's a huge return on investment. 5% on 95%, that's huge. And so maybe after the first year, if things go well, that's something we negotiate into the next year's contract. And I think that sweetens the deal for them quite a bit here.
That's something to throw out there as a great next step, especially once we see how a year goes, and then we can kind of build on them. And I agree with Pat quite a bit. First of all, they're newer, right, more or less, and the economy is also tough, so it might take them a good year before they start even getting rolling. Again, the amount isn't as important to me; it's the split.
Yeah, but don't forget, they've raised about $60,000 or $70,000 for the pool. And so they have this money that nobody, that isn't doing nothing, that it's not going to be doing anything for many years to come, is what
but they raised
have no doubt.
But going back to the original conversation, they raised it for the pool when people donated. That's where they expected the money to go.
No question. It's not like I'm trying to, I'm just saying that they managed to raise, I'm talking about more like the idea that they managed to raise that kind of money when they were super motivated.
Yeah.
And so that's the issue here. Because, I feel that honestly, I think they should have raised more for Frenchman's Creek at this stage. They had $10,000 after that first month. So in another month, they've only managed to raise another $5,000 when the information has gone out. So, they could use some better fundraising skills. First of all, I've been watching them in motion, and I like Maria, and of course I like the people involved. That's not the issue. The issue is their skill set and expertise at doing this. So this is where it's.
But at least
they got a ways to go.
At least they're doing it.
They're doing something.
Yeah,
they're doing something. We're doing.
I know, but don't forget they've been doing something for about at least the last 3 or 4 years. So they're not brand new out of the chute.
No. And I guess
what's new is we're trying to get an MOU together with them. That's the only new part.
And the thing is, I don't know how much we get for the payment, I mean, I don't know what they're paying their administrators and their people to do it. And, again, back to where that money's going and how it's all being used is extremely important for me to understand, because I don't want them just to fundraise to keep a job for people to fundraise. And we're only seeing a little pittance off to the side. At that point, it's kind of like, no, I mean, I guess in some ways it'd still be worth it because it's still something over nothing. But, that's where the rubber is kind of beating the road for me.
Yeah.
Right.
So going back to your original question, Chair Eisen, so their response, their to the negotiation is initially 0% of the general membership, because that's their only operating funds. 100% of city-specific projects and services and programs. They would give 0% of their specific programs. They understand that's only if we allow them to even fundraise for it, which they understand we're not likely to do that right now. And then their proposal is a 50% split, both at city events. It's basically the same. We could actually eliminate the second portion of this section and just have, if they're fundraising at a city event or on city property, here's the split. And we could just get rid of the second section B there.
No, that's good.
Yeah, 50-50. I don't know. I'm not feeling good with that. That's the problem. I'm not feeling good, and I don't like the nothing from the membership. I think at least $1 out of the membership to go to the Raleigh Right. I'd like that Raleigh Right to be funded, but I also want the other monies raised, to be going to such important other projects.
I mean, a little bit here, a little bit there. I mean, there's a lot of give and take. I think you just gotta, at some time, you gotta just go with whatever is being proposed, more or less. There's a lot of different components. I think we can evaluate it I think we need a year to see how this all shakes out, and then we'll start negotiating all that stuff. But to do too many negotiations right now, when I think, from my understanding, hearing from Matthew, and I have no idea, but it sounded like, I don't want it to be contentious. Like we do need to have this relationship work. We do want to make this work. Like ultimately speaking, it is a benefit to all of us for this relationship to work. It's just, I don't want to be, I feel like it's been taken advantage of. And that's why I feel like the MOU language kind of helps clear that up. And that's, back to my distrust and all that different pieces. But ultimately speaking, I think this is still a big step in the right direction. And let's just, let's go with it and just see what we can do.
And I want to make a time check. We're going to lose Commissioner Black.
Okay,
very soon.
Okay, but hold on, Pat. I'm just going to say my fear is always the nature of people is if you give them something, it's very hard then to take it away from them the following year, afterwards.
But we have the opportunity after a year to reevaluate the MOU and to do whatever. And in a lot of situations, that's a pretty common thing to do. This is new. And so we'll see what happens. And of course, we're going to be entering a new phase in people having money to donate. Most donations are kind of moot right now. People are really holding on to their cash. So we'll see what happens. I'd give them a year. I think Adam expressed it lovely, and I go with it. And I must leave. And thank you all for being so kind. Talk to you later.
All right. Take care, Pat. So, I just feel that we can't. It's not a good negotiation to basically just let them have whatever they want.
Well, I will let you know, they asked for more. This is where I landed with them in the negotiation. So this is a negotiation. It is definitely
what could they have asked for? Well, it tells you something about what? Well,
no, a negotiation, if people don't ask for it, that tells you a lot about them too. If they just go with whatever you ask them for, just to your point.
Yes,
they would prefer not to have this language here. They'd prefer to work it out on a case-by-case basis. And I told them that is not going to happen. We're not going to do it that way. That's what I had proposed initially. The commission was very clear that it needed to be worked out beforehand. And so this is where they think we can get agreement at based on the discussions that we've had.
And Bobby, I mean, but Mom, the thing is, at the end of this, we're going to see how it works out. And I mean, I think it'll be pretty easy to level set it again after the year. And now there's going to be language for the first time in there. And so we just kind of work the language. I mean, Matthew, what would you expect the split to be? What should we, at the end of the year, they raise $100,000. I'm making this up. What would you expect, like, overall? I mean, granted, there's all the different scenarios. What would you expect our percentage to be and their percentage to be, given the way it's written currently?
I can't give a specific answer on that because it's so nuanced by what they were raising for. There's no general fundraising. But what I would expect is, with an organization like this that's now committed to working with the city on the city's goals and focus, I would expect most of the funds would find their way back to the city, and only a small amount would ever stay with them because, again, they're an organization, they have costs, they need to have operating funds. I get that. But I can't give a percentage to it. What I will say is, we put in 75%, because I think that's the number we're really talking about right now. Chair Ison, I'm happy to broach with them the idea of $1 at least of the $25 renewal fee to go towards Raleigh Wright. The big, I think, issue we're talking about right now is that split of the general sales and donations that could happen. And we requested 75%. To their point, again, they're an organization that's trying to build and put itself in a position to be more effective, and they don't have, a general fund that has a bunch of money in it that they can draw on. So they have to build that, and I get that.
Yeah.
And to their point, it is a lot of work. I watched their effort the last 2 years to do the alcohol sales at the park, at the concert. It was a huge undertaking. They had, several people there the whole day out in the sun selling the alcohol. They had people running to the store for additional supplies. They had to coordinate. They had to get a liquor license. It's not just show up with a few volunteers and hand something out. It is an undertaking, and so I get that for that kind of effort, they'd like to see some of that money stay with them for their general operating costs. I do think this is something that and I get your point, Chair Ison, that it is hard to go backwards. It's easy for us to give them more, although they're probably having the same discussion on their side, because that's the problem. You've got two sides that have similar goals, but have to take into consideration their own organization. But based on the discussion about the general membership, and that for now they want to keep that all with their operating costs until they build a reserve, I could see that as an argument to change the split of other things later. If we get an audit and it shows that now they actually have reserve goals. I think it's 8 months of operating costs or something, which covers their bank accounts and their software and their regular fees. If they're approaching that, I think that gives us a good angle to say, hey, you've now built that reserve that you've been after. I think it's time to divert more of this money to parks programs, to city programs. So at least I think that if we were to agree to this split, there are some angles we could take that would justify asking to change that in the future. That isn't just us being arbitrary, that there's a reason behind it. So that's all I'd say to that.
All right. What about at least to try and negotiate with them as 60-40? Because really the city should be the ones that are getting the bulk of it, not a half and half. Just, it doesn't make it. I don't think there's any nonprofit arm of any city that does a 50-50 with the city.
I don't know. That's a question. I'm going to have a conversation again with the Friends of the Library. I know it's a little
And can you, though, also have a conversation with the city of Redwood City and Foster City and San Mateo, and so that you can bring that to the negotiation and be able to say, here's how it works with these other cities? Yes,
and we have, and there's not a lot of precedent. There aren't a lot of these friends groups out there that operate the way that we do. I think there's two dynamics that are different here, though, that complicate this. We're one of the few cities that are part of a greater community that includes the unincorporated areas. And I think that makes it hard because we do want them to focus on our work and our effort, but we have a bigger community than just the city. And so there will not be an apples to apples comparison, but we'll do some continued conversations with the other cities to make sure that what we're proposing here matches what they're doing. There aren't agreements out there for us to look at, but we can get into some deeper discussions on that. And then yes, of course we can push for additional adjustments to that split. But what I would ask for today is that a vote of confidence that I can complete the negotiations and take a recommendation to the council rather than coming back to the commission again. I think, every month just adds.
Good enough. Got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you have my full support on that.
Can we get a motion?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the topic is, but do you have it in front of you?
Here's what I would recommend as a motion.
Yeah.
And one last thing I want to make clear, that section C.
You know what? Real quick though, we haven't heard from one of our commissioners. I just want him to jump in just in case. Yeah, Luis, you want to? I don't know before we start moving anywhere else. And Matthew, please continue, and then let's go to Luis. Yeah, real quick. Matthew, do you want to continue what you were saying? Sorry, I cut you off. I was saying,
I think it's worth waiting until we.
Yeah, we need him. We need him for his vote as well.
Do we have him, Luis?
Yo, I'm here. I'm having technical difficulties. You guys are like cutting out.
Okay, but we can hear you. So that's okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of all
Did you have any comments or questions about this proposal here?
Are you pretty good? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on the same page with you guys, honestly.
Cool.
Okay, yeah. So good. So Matthew, I'm prepared to make a motion that we allow you to finalize the negotiations with Friends of the Friends of the Parks and Rec, based on what we have as an outline for this MOU agreement.
Yes, I do want to make sure one thing is clear.
Yes.
The section that I mentioned where we added the language about them changing their name.
Yes.
They're unequivocal. They will not.
Yeah, take it out. Take it out. Do it. We got to work.
No,
with them.
I understand, but you should let them, even in the negotiations, you should let them know that this isn't going to go away if this doesn't work out.
Right.
That this is problematic.
I think the message is there.
And we will have. Yeah. The
message is there because we already put it out there. So I mean, he doesn't have to belabor the point at this point. It might be.
It's not a point I'm afraid to bring up with them because I think we do want to be really clear with them that if they're going to carry that name, we expect. But I will say that I believe we've seen that shift, and I think there's some good proof to that.
Yes.
And signing this MOU is kind of the final proof of that. So
good.
Yes,
good.
I'm not
we've seen the shift. But I do know that at least one or a few of the board members are still in the old school.
I mean, it's part of the whole thing. Here we go. So here's the thing, Matthew. Can I get? Can you get the audit piece in the MOU, and let's not call it an audit. Let's just call it a quarterly review.
Yeah. A year-end review with their financials information.
Yeah, and the split.
Very hard to get that information included, language included that gets it.
Yeah, because I think that's important that they present that. I actually want them to physically come to our meeting and present it to everybody, so we can then be clear that based on that, we are going to renegotiate for the following year if anything needs to change. And hopefully nothing does. Hopefully it all just works out perfectly. That's kind of, again, then we actually have numbers to go on as opposed to just all of us throwing random stuff against the dartboard.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so that was the motion. Can I get a second on that motion?
You got a second.
Good. All right. Everyone in favor of letting Matthew do his thing on this?
Aye.
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 All right.
And I mean, I know we always do this, but thank you, Matthew, for doing all that work. It's, I mean, dude, it's a major accomplishment to have even gotten this far with this group. I feel I'm very happy about the progress. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And the feedback has been helpful. So,
okay.
So here's what I would recommend at this point is I can give a little bit of an update on the priorities, and we'll just bring this back to another meeting when we have all 5 of you here.
I don't even know if we need.
I would like. I think excuse me. I'd like to maybe not keep our people who are in waiting. Let's go to them, because that we can deal with the priorities afterwards. Let's go to them and get into that, into honoring our wonderful Parks and Recreation Commissioners. Hey, Amy.
Hi.
It looks like just tonight we will just have Amy, and we'll hopefully see the other former commissioners at a future meeting, and eventually we'll get them their plaques.
All right, great.
Jonathan, did you have any remarks prepared, or did you want me to handle this tonight?
I don't have any prepared remarks, but I can go off the cuff too.
Go for it.
Well, Amy, I want to thank you personally because you're one of the founding members of this committee, I believe, and you're one of the founding members of this commission, and you had been on this for almost 4 years. And you were the chair when I first arrived here as a staff member, and having your leadership and your guidance running meetings made my job a whole lot easier. And for that, I'm really appreciative. And just from what I've seen over the last 3 years of what's gotten done here at the city of Half Moon Bay, I just want to say thank you. And I'd be very proud for everything that this commission's accomplished. And a lot of that is thanks to your hard work and the former commissioners who were here to honor.
All right, I'm just going to add my 2 cents. Amy, it was great to serve with you. I know you started when the commission came together. None of us had ever been a chair or a vice chair or anything, and you jumped in with both feet and did a great job. And so I was very happy to serve with you, and I want to thank you for taking the time and volunteering and helping the community. So really very much appreciated. All right, Adam, who appointed you, would you like to say something? You need to unmute yourself, Adam. You got to unmute.
I'm all in. No, I want to say something. No, Amy, first of all, thanks for serving. Because when I talked to you about this, 4 or 5 years ago, I had no idea what was going to be involved. And so I just tried to be like, all right, it's only going to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And, and you served admirably over 4 years' time. So I'm extremely appreciative. I think you were chair twice. So thank you for that as well, leading that department. And you've just done, you have kids in the community, you represent the community, you represent another facet of the community. This commission has really, I think has grown. And I think you did a great job starting it out. And I think it's got a brilliant future in front of it as well. So thank you for all you've done to make Half Moon Bay a better place to live.
Does Commissioner O'Hara have any statements he's made? I don't know if he knows Amy or not. They certainly didn't get to serve together.
Yeah, I don't think I know Amy, but thank you for everything you've done. Sounds like you you really made a difference in this community. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. And Amy, when I finish, we'd love to give you a few minutes to share as well. It was great working with you. You were here when I was hired. You really helped us. I was hired right when we were converting from a committee to a commission. That required a lot of patience and learning together from all of us. And I think what we saw happen over several years is we went from a group that just kind of talked about things to a group that was getting stuff done. And the cohesiveness and the great conversations and the big issues that this group tackled prior to this past year. This past year was a little different, but it was pretty amazing. And so one of the things we wanted to do to honor you is Jonathan was able to acquire a really nice plaque for you. And it's something, hopefully you'll proudly display at your home or your office or wherever you want to. And it'll just be a memory of the time you spent helping us to bring this group forward and do great things. I'm not sure if you're in Half Moon Bay right now. This is something, okay, so I'll be down there on Friday or next Monday. I think Jonathan will be in on Monday too, right? I'm thinking maybe we'll swing by your house on Monday and drop this off if that'd be okay. With masks and all. So great, thank you again so much for your service. It meant a lot to city staff and to the community. And I know Eddie wanted to share his regards as well. He really enjoyed working with you and your cooperation and learning alongside us how to bring a group like this forward. So thank you. And the time is yours, Amy.
Nice.
I will add one more thing. I think with the Friends, we've really turned a corner and things are going great. I think one of the things that helped is Amy joined their board. And I think it helped them to have kind of an insider's perspective of, hey, this is what the city's focused on and why it's focused on the things that it is. And I think we certainly saw a shift. I think she was also instrumental in helping to get Maria, who does this professionally and has helped them develop policies and procedures and really improve themselves as well. So I think she can be thanked for the progress we've made with the Friends as well.
Wonderful.
Thank you guys so much.
Amy, you want to say a few words?
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just that everything that you guys said, it really meant a lot to me. I really, really appreciate your kind words. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that, I started law school in the fall, and that is why I didn't really feel, I thought, okay, it's probably great to let somebody else do this because now I'm working, 24/7 on law school right now. But I mean, this is something I hope so much that I can come back and be part of the city in some way or another, because I just love this. It was really fun to get to be here tonight and listen. And I'm realizing, I can listen. I can come join any meeting and listen. So I'll probably start doing that because I love what's going on. And you guys will remember some of the funny things. Like I was always obsessed about the signage. That was always signs. But for Friends, yeah, definitely. I really believe in fundraising for the city, and I want to be really involved with it. And so I that's why I want to be involved in that organization. So, and of course, because of law school, I'm not able to help as much as I really would normally want to do. But I really care about, functional organizations doing things the right way, where everyone is happy and getting, everyone is getting their needs, mutual, beneficial needs met and everything. So it's really exciting to see, everybody moving on and keeping going. And Paulette, it's great to see you as chair.
Thank you.
And, Adam, I mean, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I loved working with all of you guys. And I hope that as the years go on, I get to do it again. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Good luck with law school. Absolutely.
Yeah, good luck.
Great. Yeah, fantastic.
Are you at Kansas?
No, I'm
Thanks
at
so much, Amy.
Santa Clara Law.
Oh, okay, cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm here. Thank you guys so much.
Fabulous.
Okay.
So I am going to move on now to the beginning of the agenda. No.
No,
That's
I think
basically it.
I would recommend we start at the beginning.
There's no public, so there's no public comments.
Chair Ison, you froze on us. Can't hear you or see you.
Let's go to city council updates. Okay, darn it.
That's okay. We
For
hear
some
you now.
reason, the internet connection is better. City
Yeah.
council
Well-
updates. Did you hear that one? Yeah.
Yes. I will make a quick announcement just while we've got the airwaves here. Anybody who is looking for their second dose of the Moderna shots who participated at the church back on February 26th, they originally got cards to come back tomorrow, March 25th, to get their second dose. That actually was shifted to Friday the 26th at the church from 10 to 6. They should have all gotten emails to schedule an appointment. If somebody listening tonight did not get that email and needs that second shot, they can call the county's contractor at 855-330-3763 and schedule an appointment for Friday. If you're unable to do that, please go Friday afternoon before 6 p.m. and they'll be able to find a way to squeeze you into your second shot appointment. Please do not show up at the church tomorrow. Those are first shots and they're using the Pfizer vaccine. They will not be able to help you. Okay, city council updates. I will keep these very brief because the last two meetings have been smaller meetings and the bigger items. Some of them didn't pertain to this group. I think the most important thing is on March 2nd, the council approved an application for a Prop 68 grant of $4.75 million for Carter Park. That application was submitted and we expect to hear back from the state this summer. We're definitely crossing our fingers and we feel like we're much more competitive because we're in a truly shovel ready. Like if they gave us the money, we could kick it off within a month. We just got to find a contractor and run. But we're also hedging our bets and working with our state legislators to go after some earmarks in the funding in the state level. And then of course, we'll very soon kick off working with the Friends. I think as soon as the MOU is done, developing a fundraising campaign. And to Chair Ison's point, I think it's going to be important that we don't just turn it over to them, but that we really work together. We probably create like a fundraising subgroup of this commission that works with their fundraising committee that meets on a very regular basis to develop plans and ways to make this really effective fundraising. And I think that'll help increase their capabilities. It'll improve our relationship and give us the best shot at raising some good money for this. So very exciting. On March 16th, the item that was pertaining to, I think, this group was our staff, Public Works, myself, my team, and the Sheriff's Office developed an action plan for responding to beach traffic and visitors this summer. As we all know, it looks like we've lost Commissioner Ison. I don't know when he dropped off.
Yeah, I don't have anybody except you. Yeah, okay.
I'll keep giving my update. We don't have to vote on anything else tonight, so hopefully we get him back. But as he knows from last year as mayor and everything we learned last year, and then we've done these plans in the past. I won't get into the details. I'd recommend anybody interested to look at the staff report and watch the video from the meeting because they can also hear from the public and from the council. But the highlights of the plan include increased communications and signage, coordination with the state, county, and other reps from other agencies, additional sheriff presence, especially around traffic control and beach enforcement. They've got their off-road vehicle that they'll be taking up and down the beach. Of course, our barber has a sweet mustache. Additional staff for the city. We're going to be hiring some seasonal staff for Public Works to address trash and traffic issues. Additional trash cans throughout our properties. Additional restrooms. We're going to do some porta potties in some high concentration areas to try to get past the common occurrence of people relieving themselves on other people's property because it's just too far to walk to a bathroom. Another cool thing that I think we'll bring to this commission at some point is we're working with a volunteer group that works with the Ski Patrol. And the Ski Patrol is a nationwide organization, international organization that trains and ensures and coordinates ski patrols, volunteers that work ski slopes. Well, they now have a very robust bike patrol program. And there's several members of that group living here on the coast that want to start doing that on the coastal trail. And so we're negotiating an MOU with them right now to patrol our sections of the coastal trail. The state has indicated that they're unlikely for any time right now to enter into an agreement with them, but they have no issues with them riding on their trails because it's public property. So they'll have to negotiate that and maneuver that a little bit. But certainly we can help get them up and running on our trails, and they'll use the entire coastal trail to get around. And the county's interested at some point in expanding on their properties as well. So I think that's another great, just additional eyes and ears, boots on the ground. They'll be trained in CPR and first aid. They can help people understand bike safety and pedestrian safety on the trail. They can help people fix their bikes if there's a problem. And they will be coordinated with the sheriff's office to call in. They'll know what kind of things they need to call in and report to get aid if there's an issue that needs to be resolved. They, of course, won't be enforcing any rules or laws or really addressing them other than bike safety. But they're another great set of eyes and ears, people from the community helping us. So we're really excited to move that forward. The other update I have is today, the council held their annual priority setting session, which at the time of our last meeting, we didn't have a schedule for that yet, but that actually happened today. It was an eventful meeting. If anybody's interested, they might watch that back. There were some fireworks. But
oh, really?
Yeah. But ultimately, we got where we needed to get. They came to 4 priorities, and I'll share more details on that when I get to the priority setting section of our agenda. Are there any questions on any of that before I move on to recreation updates? Nope. Okay. I will move right into recreation updates. Again, Eddie apologizes for not being...
I have one comment, is that, what's the name of that group, the bike that would be working on the...
It's the National Ski Patrol.
National Ski Patrol.
But it's the bike patrol section of the ski patrol.
Okay. So can we, though, make sure that, periodically, quarterly or something, that they come in to our meetings and give us an update on how things are going and what they're finding and any issues that they have. And okay, good.
And I could see that for the bike ped committee as well. I think they could be a good partner to that group as well.
Yeah.
Great. Jonathan, did you have?
Yeah, we'll have to call the meeting if Commissioner Eisen doesn't return.
Right.
And we can't ask any questions or have any other future items.
Great. Okay, what I'll do then is I will give the final 2 updates. I won't be able to take questions, but at least you can hear them and the community can hear them. And then we may need to bring some of this back to a future meeting when we have a quorum. So the recreation updates that I think are important for the community here are on Saturday, March 27th. So that's this coming Saturday. Our recreation team and staff are partnered with the Boys and Girls Club on an egg hunt. This is an annual event that the Boys and Girls Club sponsors and the city supports. This will be, and also the school district. This will be a modified approach this year from 2 to 5 p.m. Using the soccer fields at Cunha. The field will be roped off into sections, and families will actually reserve a section and just do an egg hunt on their section so that you don't have people on the same parts of the field at the same time. We'll have staff there, and we'll help with registration, and there will be library staff there handing out free books and providing support as well. So that almost feels like a normal activity, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Update on the kitchen remodel. We have received our certification from the county environmental health division for commercial kitchen status. And the only thing, so we can start planning for activities there. We have a couple of folks that are interested in, when allowed, doing cooking classes out of there as part of our recreation programming. And we are still pursuing the ability to allow businesses and nonprofits to use it for both for-profit and nonprofit purposes. Our staff is currently working with county staff to develop the protocols that are required by the county before we can do that. So that's moving forward nicely, and we'll be excited to give you all a tour of it soon. Some new classes and summer camps that are coming online that our staff are working with folks on. There will be Tiny Tykes soccer camp starting in April. That will be outdoors at Smith Field. And then depending on how things change, they may move indoor as they have in the past. These are the little kids. And so especially during certain parts of the year, they like to have it indoors. There will be a Mad Science camp in June and August. That will be virtual. Unfortunately, being hands-on for that kind of a camp probably is not something we can do this year. Cooking Around the World, which is a youth cooking camp in July and August, that will also be virtual this year. But again, depending on if we can finalize everything with our kitchen and if the rules allow it, that operator would like to do it out of our kitchen live. But the virtual one is pretty cool. They'll actually send a weekly kit to the kids, and they'll just get on Zoom and they'll cook together on Zoom. And I know my kids have done some of that and they've really enjoyed it.
That's good.
There will be a calligraphy class online in September or October, unless they can do it in person. PCTV continues to want to offer, or to go back to offering some of their programming, which is production, support, learning, volunteering with the station. And staff are working on some esports leagues. We know that the idea of recreation is to get kids outside and doing recreational stuff, but more and more kids are really involved in video games and we're in the headsets and doing it online. These esports leagues at least create a better structured environment and a more wholesome environment for those kids to be doing this in. And so we want to support, if kids are going to be doing it, we want to support having that done in the right way. Other things we currently have going on still are outdoor dog training. We have outdoor Zumba classes. We are still doing food distributions and COVID testing. The Boys and Girls Club received a grant and has expanded their remote learning at the Ted Adcock Community Center, which has been fantastic. We're currently in discussions about what might happen when the kids go back to school now that they're geared to go back to school in 3 weeks. And then the Sheriff's Activities League has reconvened their Girls Leadership Program. And that will begin to be on Wednesday afternoons again at the Ted Adcock. And that's a great program. Additionally, the library has offered up a reopening plan. We're still working out details with them, but they will begin slowly opening to the public in April. They're targeting April 15th through the entire system. Initially, it will just take people from the reserve online and come and pick it up, to the ability to come in and peruse the catalog and pick out books physically. They will not initially offer programs, and they'll recommend people are there for an hour or less. And they'll even close partway through the day to do some cleaning and to make sure people aren't just hanging out. We know that that's where we want to get. We know that's what people want, but we've got to take baby steps to make sure we can do this safely. But I think it is exciting that the library is likely to reopen in April. They also will be bringing back the summer learning programs through the Big Lift that they've done in the past. We'll send out some information on internship opportunities for young adults that want to participate in that. It's a paid internship. It's a great program. If someone wants to become a teacher or get into child development, it's a great thing to have on their resume. And it's a great way for our community to get involved in that program. Those programs will be expanded, but part of that will require some partnership with us, which we're really excited about, using rec staff and resources to help them really provide a very robust program this summer for summer learning, start to address some of the learning loss that happens not just in the summer, but inevitably happened over the last year and a half. So really, really excited about that. And that is our recreation updates. Again, I apologize that you can't ask questions right now. So then my final update is the Parks Master Plan implementation update. We've talked about Carter Park. We are shovel ready. We're waiting for the final drawings, which will be done very, very soon in the next 2 weeks, I believe. And all the environmental and the permitting is done. All we will need to do is raise the funds, just that, and then get building permits, which we'll have because we've already met all the requirements, and hire a contractor. So there is a chance, if all stars align, that construction on this project could begin as soon as this October. We're still hopeful that Shakespeare in the Park, to some degree, can move forward this year, that our music series can move forward this year, and possibly even our Summer's End concert series or Summer's End music festival could happen. And best case scenario, we actually kick off construction as soon as that event is finished, and we are substantially complete or even complete before next summer's events. That's a huge long shot. We all know that, but hey, hope for the best, try for the best, and see what happens. I've already updated you on Frenchman's Creek Park. We'll be taking an item to the council to bridge the funding, to merge that with the donations that the Friends have been collecting, and ideally get that project done before the summer. And then the final piece of this is we will have Public Works here at the April meeting. They will present the capital improvement plan for the next fiscal year. It will not be what we've done in the past, which is usually earlier on, and we get to talk about a lot of different ideas and concepts and kind of shape that process. There will be some room for that, but this year's CIP, the way it's shaped out, is really prioritizing bringing back projects that were canceled last year. So we're kind of in that, we're back to last year, and then we'll see if we can move some of those projects forward. So we'll have that opportunity to have that discussion at our April meeting. We'll have a couple of folks from Public Works to come talk about it, and we're excited to get you all up to speed, all the commissioners, and take your feedback. And I've stalled as long as I can.
Great,
so.
yeah, it's gonna, I know Adam is dealing with some family major issues. So
okay.
That could be what caused him to have to break away, which would be very disturbing to find out. But yes, that's the story. Okay.
What I will say about priority setting, is we've got the council's priorities. We've got all the discussions we've had. I'll be prepared to really bring some great recommendations to you at our next meeting and have a good discussion with the whole group.
Great. Okay, so I'm just going to report outs. Those of us who are here, any report outs? No. Commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments? Okay, I've got a couple of things, community news or a bulletin. Yeah, one of the things that, one of the biggest reasons I think that we do never have people for public comment, except if it's some roundabout circuitous way that they found out something is happening at this meeting, and so now they're here, is that we don't announce the Parks and Recreation meetings. You have it. I get an alert for the Planning Commission. I get alert for the City Council. I never get an alert for Parks and Recreation. So that needs to be that needs to go out so that people know. And ideally, it'll say it'll have it'll have the agenda on it, so people can see, is there anything I want to, address?
So question for Jonathan from the clerk's office, because you get those alerts by signing up for them. Is it that do we not have Parks and Rec as one of the alerts, or do we need?
That's a good question.
I'll have to check and get back to you, but I'll do that right now.
The other thing we can do is ask our social media communications person to make sure that we put something out the same way we do for the other meetings. I know we do it for, like you said, specific projects that are of interest to folks, but we can make that a more regular thing at this point.
Yeah, because, especially Parks and Rec Commission, we want to hear from the community. It's really important. The biking thing, I addressed that. Jonathan, to get an actual response from the commissioners that they're going to be here at the meeting or not going to be here, because obviously we don't want this scenario to happen again. So you need to know that someone committed or they said no, they can't make it that on that particular Wednesday.
Well, during our January meeting, we mentioned that they need to alert me and they need to alert you that they're not going. Otherwise,
Bylaws specifically say they are supposed to notify the chair if they are not going to be in attendance.
Okay, well, that's an important thing.
So we'll need to remind everybody next week.
Yes, can we put